So in your workbook, I just don't like how your workbook lays out lessons 6 and 7. So I've made my own packet, which is what these notes are. It's the same type of thing, just in a way that I feel like is better for your learning. This chart at the beginning of this is really helpful. So let's talk about this in factoring when we're going for it. So no matter what, when we're doing factoring, our first reaction, everyone should have these notes out, computers away. Your first thought, no matter what, should be, is there a GCF? Is there a greatest common factor? Okay, deal with that if there is one. Then you should follow through in a couple of steps. Is there two terms? If there's two, see if there's a difference of squares. If there's three terms, you're going to see if it's a trinomial. Likely, we're in grade 10, 100% of the time it's probably going to be. If the trinomial is just a happy x term by itself, or where a is equal to 1, that's where we're going to find factors of c that add to b. So that's what we've been doing so far. That's all the ones, that's where we would say a is equal to 1. So we kind of have two cases for a trinomial, where a is equal to 1. So that's what your quiz was just on. The second solution is when a is not equal to 1. So when there's a value there for a, where a is equal to 2 or 3, and that's what we're going to get to eventually. So in the later, probably not today, truthfully, but in our next couple of classes. So if you had like 2x squared plus something, it's a little bit trickier. There's a couple different ways you can go through it, and that's what this workbook is getting at. The last one, if there's 4 terms, it's factor by grouping. This is the most likely one for you to forget. Often we forget what factoring by grouping is. We totally disregard it. Just like in our last unit, we all kind of forgot what a degree was. We forgot what our leading coefficient is. That's what kind of ends up our factoring by grouping being. So let's go through these examples here. So they gave us an example for difference of squares. I have 2 terms, x squared minus 64. So the answer to this, a fully factored answer here is going to be x minus 8 times x plus 8. Easy, not bad, correct? Let's review. 2 numbers multiplied 64. Lovely. Remember, it has to be separated by subtraction. Maybe highlight that in there for yourself as well. This next one, we have 18m squared times n minus 2n cubed. We have a GCF here. What is our GCF on this question? 9. There's more to it. 9, it's not n. 9 is what we're left with. 2n. GCF is 2n. 2 goes into both of those, and there's an n on both terms, leaving us with 9m squared minus n squared. Now I have 2 perfect squares separated by subtraction. So then it's going to be 3m minus n, 3m plus n. That first example, a little bit easier than the second example. Do those two make sense? Is that okay? Yeah, cool. So then trinomials where a is equal to 1. So I need 2 numbers that multiply, so 42 is our C, and add to -1, which is our B. What are the easiest 2 numbers that cross our mind when we think of 42? Good, 6 and 7. So our factor here is going to be x minus 7, because our end answer needs to be a negative, times x plus 6. -7 plus 6 gives us our -1. 7 times 6 gives us our 42. Next example, there's a GCF. What is our GCF? 2. So we factor out our 2. I'm left with w squared plus 10w plus 25. I need 2 numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10. Good. So this is going to be w plus 5, w plus 5. I wrote the same thing twice. A nicer way or a better way is to then rewrite this w plus 5 squared. Okay, we haven't done the next method, so we're going to leave that one blank for now. And then we'll go to factor by grouping. Just want to give you guys a second to write that down. So factor by grouping, generally they're written in the order to use it, not always, but generally. So that should be your first check. Is there something common between my first two terms? A, cool. Is there something common between my second two terms? 5. Okay, so let's try that. So from my first two, if I factor out a squared, my first one I'm left with 2a minus b. My second one, I'm going to factor out 5. I'm left with 2a minus b. Now I can factor out the 2a minus b from both. And then my first terms, what I factored out initially, becomes my second binomial. So minus the one that we haven't covered yet, this is really helpful, this diagram. This is kind of your like sheet for the unit. Do you need me to zoom in more? Sorry. Go ahead, Hafsa. Yeah. So your report card isn't due, I think your marks are due after the fall break. So like November 17th. It's going to be really close. So potentially not. It's going to be really close. Camden.
How long is that fall break?
You guys have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. So plus weekend. No. I wish I had that power.
Why don't they just give us the whole week off?
Okay, let's. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So we will come back and fill in the one. There's a lot of different pieces to remember. I would suggest when we come to our unit test, you almost write this down initially. Or at least write down your first 2, 3, 4 terms to give you that prompt. You know what, sometimes at the beginning of tests, you might write down really quick the things you often forget. This might be that thing to kind of help you write out. Can I move on? Yeah? Okay, let's fill in these. Always first try to factor out the greatest common factor. GCF. Always try and do that first. If, in bold, AX, my apologies, I forgot it was Tuesday. Okay, we'll finish this next class. No homework.